This is the three critical must-haves for relationship success by yours truly. Welcome and thank you for attending. Today's agenda, so you know what is going on today, is welcome everyone to this webinar. Why am I doing this? Understanding the mindset of relationships, the three critical must-haves, an opportunity for anyone who wants to learn more, and big closing, big warm hugs, as you all know that I am a good hugger. Special bonus lesson if there's time. I don't want to keep anyone with their busy schedules and everything. Why am I called to help you find great relationships? Well, my journey began as a child, as the only child, born to a single parent mother. This is me and my usually getting bathed by my grandmother. And I was raised in Big Mom's house. That's grandma's house for people not raised in the South. She was from the South, even though I'm from DC. And this is her giving me a bath. Being the firstborn of all the cousins, no brothers and sisters, but there was I think all of us lived in the grandma's house at one point or another. So everyone, big, thick family filled with cousins, but more like brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles. This is me and my mom. I don't know how old I was there. And in my grandmother's house, there was my mother, her four sisters. So that's six women so far, and my uncle, who swiftly abandoned me as soon as he could for the safe surroundings of military life, or thereabout. I think he served a couple of years and just to get away. Some of my family, my cousins, we're kind of spread out like 2 years apart. So after me, there's, Nicole and Sean, and, it just goes on 2 years and 2 years after that. And when, let me go back. Growing up in that house was a dynamic, as you saw, of the far majority of women. So that means that there was really no male influence with me. Like, no one that I really can remember that I can look at and at least gravitate to in a masculine way. So actually the first steady man in my life was my gym teacher, Mr. Mayo, at Whittier Elementary. And I would see him. He had the biggest influence as a male in my life. I guess I was even lucky to have a male teacher, even back in the day, because that's the only male teacher that I can actually remember in elementary school. And so, as he has as much an influence as anyone could have, seeing children an hour a day, for gym class and things like that. But he did give strong guidance, and he was a great example for me to at least look at and, subconsciously pick up how to walk and things like that. Well, even though I remember clearly in junior high school, walking down the halls, trying to figure out what a masculine walk felt like. And which is very interesting because I have a strong masculine presence that was luckily cultivated from me being able to develop it on my own. I once heard Wayne Dyer talk about the person that had the strongest influence in his life was his father that abandoned him as soon as he was born, which means he abandoned his family while his mother was bringing him home as a newborn to the house. And that set him off on a road that led him to where he is today. And when I heard that, I really resonated strongly with that. And I understood even back then that not having a father was probably one of the biggest gifts in my life, where I wasn't raised in that culture of, stop crying or being homophobic or fake machismo, macho stuff that goes on, that really is not grounded in being authentic or actually seeing other people, especially seeing women. So I always have appreciated that aspect of not having a father. And then again, it really wasn't until recently that I, changing my life around and really focusing on it, leaving photography and being a relationship coach, and that I began to miss a male presence like that growing up. Someone to call father, hang out with, talk to, be vulnerable with another man in that way. So as most of you know, some of you know maybe, that you may or may not know that I was married. I got married at 23 to a woman that was also that was raised in an unbalanced environment, meaning that she lived with her grandmother. Actually, her parents separated, divorced, and she found it to be more stable at her grandmother's house. So then again, with no grandfather. So then again, in a atmosphere of mostly women, no strong male influences, except for her uncles were there. But you can see how, if we are to attract who we are, how we got together. Like me from my imbalanced family attracted her, and her from her imbalanced family. So me leaning more towards my feminine, her leaning more towards her masculine, to compensate for what was going on, how we had to adapt in our lives growing up. And, we'll talk about that dynamic a little bit later. And we were married for 7 years. We dated 3 years before that. And it was really, when I got married, I remember clearly saying it doesn't get any better than this. Now, at that moment, I had no idea of what my true needs were, what it took to be a leader in the household, how we needed daily intimacy to stay connected and trusting of each other, and how to communicate, what words to use and how to use sentence structures that will open us up or close us down when we're talking to each other. And there was just a sense of making it all up as we went along. Meaning that, we may have heard that husband's supposed to do that or wife's supposed to do that. And that's what we kept our expectations to. No matter how unrealistic those expectations were, or what it did to the other person, if it kept us off balance, but holding to these ideals that we really had no experience of living in a household with a balanced mother and father in a healthy relationship. And it also, the term unbalanced means not having a healthy masculine and feminine balance in the house. So you can be married or have parents that were abusive, and that's also considered as, to me, as a unbalanced, or they kind of use the term dysfunctional, but you can say either one. And what it ended with me being so depressed that I just shrunk down into a shell, only with the instinctive knowing that something was wrong, that I needed to do something, that I needed to be more. I needed to find that balance in myself. I didn't know those terms exactly offhand, but that was where my instincts were going. And we separated and got divorced. And there's a whole story behind that I may share later on. But she was married less than a year later with like a kid on the way or something like that. So that story ends pretty well. At birth, we are all at the same point. Every innocent little baby is an innocent little baby for a reason. And that's why we recognize that in the newborns. At that point, there's a point that something happens and that changes what we believe. And that could be, being born into a family where it is one parent. The parents get divorced. Or you are in your teenage years and you get your heart broken. And based on what your rules full of is, it could trigger thoughts and feelings of being abandoned. If you are around a lot of abuse growing up, if you have been raped, is a strong one, where the emotions are so high as you're having these thoughts that it instantly changes your beliefs of safety, of what sex is, what relationships are. And we begin to experience that over and over again. We begin to experience everything we don't want, because that is our focus. That is our new focus based on what has happened that has changed our beliefs. There is a universal law that if you're not growing, you're dying. And what that means is, if we aren't expanding who we are dying. So we're expanding even in the slightest way, whether it's we're physically growing, we're noticing something new every day, we're having different thoughts every day. Like, all this contributes to growing in any area of our lives. When we have a relationship that stops us from going further or going from this point, and all we think about is, we get to a certain point in a relationship where we think about that past hurt. Sorry, let me drink some water. We have a past hurt. And so we get intimate only to a point. That's because we stop growing at that point. And it no longer looks safe. It no longer looks secure. It no longer felt good. We no longer felt significant. So we begin to shut down and sabotage ourselves at that point. We begin to resist what we are experiencing. So as we experience everything we don't want, it becomes it becomes a point where there comes a point where we don't feel like we can change anything, and yet we don't like where we are. And that is the resistance to where we are, like really accepting where we are so we can go forward is key to that situation. So until the awakening point, where I feel a lot of you may be right now, is where you begin to notice something, that something different is possible, that it's not as scary, and these could be just like a hint of something. Like you see your friends getting married. Oh, like, wait a minute, how can they have a good love relationship and me not? So it must be possible if that person can do it. Or you notice something different about yourself. You notice someone says something to you that you were not aware of at one point, and it begins that awakening point. It begins that awakening. Like, if someone you haven't seen for a long time, said, boy, you have gained a lot of weight. And it's like, well, screw you, number one. But I didn't really realize that I was gaining weight until you said something. So now I'm aware of it again. Like I always joke, like I got fat and no one told me. And it was like, I weigh like 30 pounds less than I did before right now. So once my attention was brought back to my body and things like that, I was able to make that change. And this is the shift that I want you to have, of no longer being afraid of relationships, no longer going off on instinct and hoping and wishing that things would turn out right, but having that fear inside of not knowing what to do if it does. After the awakening is the clearing. So like the letting go of the baggage, the being able to look at where you have come from, the mistakes that you have made in a way that's empowering and educating, that gives you power to change, power to do something different than you were doing before. That leads to things making better sense. So like, okay, now I see where I begin to adopt these new beliefs that are really not a part of me, and they could be from, family members. Like, guys always cheat. So you hear that enough, like it becomes true. Shifts your beliefs. Now you see that all these external beliefs are not really who you are at your core, which leads to the magic of creating and developing the relationship that you've always wanted. And this is the stick person that you didn't see before, but was on my screen. And the stick person was developed by Thurman Fleet in the 1930s. And what he illustrated and showed us that typical psychology, like the basic fundamentals of psychology, which is the conscious mind, that are the thoughts and the thinking based on what we see, hear, touch, smell, and taste, that influence our subconscious mind, which is our emotions and your feelings. That is the foundation of our belief system. The subconscious mind of thoughts influence our subconscious mind, which creates our belief system that we manifest through our body. Through our body and our actions, which equal the results, the circumstances, our environment, and how we love. Now, this our belief. This is our beliefs. Our thoughts. We think things over and over again. And when we think them over and over again, we create more feelings about what we're thinking over and over again that becomes our beliefs. And this is how anything becomes a belief. Our morals, what we hold true in our religions, what we hold true in our politics, all are thoughts that we have thought over and over again until it creates and builds a feeling a feeling of certainty in our body. And so then it becomes a circle. So based on our results, circumstances, and environment, we tend to look at this as truth, as proof. See, the results that we're having here is because what I thought up here was true, that my subconscious believes and has molded our, sorry, my voice is going up, that has become our belief system that we now are manifesting through our body. So at that point where something changes, we begin to see things differently, hear things differently, things feel differently, they smell differently, they taste differently. That creates a change of emotions and change of feelings in our body that creates a change in our belief system that we then begin to manifest through our body. See, the subconscious mind is not rational. Whatever the conscious mind feeds it over and over again, it just accepts. The subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's imaginary. And this is where our belief systems come into play. And it forms our belief systems because of what we are seeing over and over again. Like, we're programming ourselves from seeing the same things over and over again and having the same thoughts about it, creating the same emotions about it, letting our belief system manifest our actions. So in the example of relationships equal breakup, we will look for things in our relationship that look like a breakup is coming. And these consume our thoughts. Our conscious mind is looking for things that will break us up, that we are listening to every word that person is saying, waiting for those breakup words or that breakup term. Like, what did you mean about that? And why did you say it like that? He was like, what? I just asked you if you wanted some chips. And, that begin to, and those thoughts over and over again affects our emotions. So we no longer are happy when someone's offering us chips just out of the blue, because our thoughts are swimming in uncertainty and something is about to happen. And then our emotions create the belief system. And because we are manifesting these actions in our bodies of being tense, of snapping at our person, it creates the results, our conditions, the environment, and how we see love. And that's where the cycle is happening over and over again. I'm gonna have to change my position to get my voice better. And like I said, our thoughts compound and compound until they equal belief. They're stacked on top of each other until they become a belief. And through the thoughts of what we are experiencing, Through our subconscious mind, feelings manifest our belief system, creates our belief system that we are manifesting from. Like our body responds to our belief system, and that equal our results, equal our circumstances, equal our environment and how we love, and becomes back into our belief system. Until we inject something that breaks this cycle, we stay in that cycle. So a question. Have you ever been in a relationship that felt like you were making it up as you went along? Have you ever just hoped for the best, hoping that things would work out, but having a feeling that it may not work out? Like having that feeling like it may end up like my last relationship. I'm just waiting for this person to change just like my last person did. Hoping and praying with deep, warm connection won't change. That where you started from will maintain. Like that loving feeling that we have when we meet someone will remain. These are the foundations for every good relationship. The romantic relationship that you want has these three critical must-haves. And it's polarity, communication, and chemistry. Polarity is the key to masculine and feminine balance. And polarity means that when we are experiencing one thing, because we are experiencing it, the direct opposite must be there. So us as human beings and polarity with the opposite sex or the opposite energy is we're on this linear, let's say like a linear scale of there's masculine on one end and there's feminine on the other end. And here we are. Based on the results that we have, our environment. I'm sorry, hold on one second. I swear this just started as I am on the seminar. And this is us. Everyone has masculine and feminine within themselves. And we adapt to become more masculine or more feminine based on our perception of the world. And there is no right or wrong. Wherever, sorry, you go back, this happens. Wherever you are along this line is perfectly fine. You will attract someone in your opposite field. So as much as you are masculine, you will attract someone that is feminine. Now here's the key to where that goes wrong sometimes. If where you are is not your natural polarity, you will meet someone that matches your current polarity, and then things will begin to shift. When the example I usually give is when a woman is single and living by herself and taking care of herself and working a job. She is naturally more masculine to take care of herself, to get things done for protection, to provide for herself. And when she meets a man, a masculine man, she begins to open up. Now, it could be that that masculine man is unnaturally in his feminine as well. That's really why they attracted to each other. In that day of point, the polarity of those two people matched. So when the woman begins to open up and soften and become more feminine, if the man stays in that feminine place, that's where the polarity is off and the energy begins not to be a natural pulling towards each other. It becomes the guy like where is the independent, strong woman I met before? You know, like, what is all this I'm having to do now? Like, I liked it before when I didn't have to be another person. Let me check in with folks. Is this making sense to folks? Type in yes, no. I see a friend from high school is like, yes, this makes sense. That's so funny. Can you hear me, Janelle? You said my sound went out. I don't know how long you said that. Oh, okay. Am I making clear sense up to this point so far? And also, is it okay if we go over because of my rookie mistakes? And like I said, I take your time seriously. And if you are and if you have to go, I understand, and I will post this online. Thank you, Randy. Great. I'm going to get to, I'm going to do as much as I can up to the 2:30 because I know some people have to go. Sorry, I'm having to, the GoToWebinar works kind of funky with Keynote on the Mac. So bear with me. Masculine and feminine does not mean man and woman. As you know, there is the same polarity in gay relationships, in homosexual, lesbian relationships. That same dynamic is there. And it may be to a slighter degree, but if there is harmony in any relationship, straight, masculine, whatever, it's because one person is masculine and the other person is feminine. When arguments and blocks come, is when these are dynamically flowing energies between people. Someone can be masculine in the bedroom and feminine in the kitchen. And that can be a man or a woman. Or in the daily relationship, want to be more feminine and the other person is more masculine. Like whoever's working, leaving the house and working, providing and taking care of, tends to be the more masculine person because the work environment tends to be more masculine. And there are exceptions to all these rules. So don't beat me up. But masculine and feminine does not mean man or woman. And it is a dynamically flowing thing between people. If both of you are stuck in a place where you aren't understanding each other or can't stand to be around each other, it could be that you both are in either a feminine place or a masculine place. Both people are wanting to take charge, or both people are wanting to be felt and heard at that time. A simple shift of whoever is more naturally masculine were to shift back into being masculine, that will balance out the relationship. And why I say masculine is because whoever is most naturally masculine is because there's more rational connections there. Like the feminine is more feeling. And so it's more like the subconscious mind, like feeling what is around, feeling what is going on, what is influencing them at that time. The masculine is more about getting things done, having a checklist, being efficient, making sure that everyone's safe, that everyone is on point, etc. As much as you are masculine, you will be attracted to your equal balance of feminine in another. In that moment, and like I said before, like the woman that has the masculine mask, in order to feel safe in the world, at any point that mask comes down and then meets someone, that person will naturally be in that moment, like the fluid of it will be just as masculine as that person is feminine. Polarity is not always enjoying the same things, but enjoying things in your way. So the specific steps are not always the same, but and liking things for different reasons, for a masculine reason or a feminine reason. Like a house, for instance, like the masculine is more like, this will support us and keep us dry and warm. And the feminine is more like, oh, this can be a great nest. Sharing the same goals keeps that polarity there as well. Like the feeling of oneness, togetherness, trust. Doesn't mean doesn't mean that you have to like the same football team, though it is a bonus with me. And having opposite teams also adds spice to relationships. Some competitiveness or, traits of the feminine. Wants to be cherished. Like a woman wants to be loved, wants to be taken care of, seen as beautiful, appreciated for her essence. The feminine is receptive, receiving of gifts, receiving of energies, receiving of the masculine. The feminine is emotional. And though this gets a bad rep because it's often misunderstood, the feminine's emotions are what activates the masculine. The feminine emotion calls the masculine to step up, to fix, to want to help. The feminine is also non-verbal energy, like feeling another person and where they are, feeling another, like being intuitive, is both masculine and feminine, but the experience is so much deeper for the feminine. The feminine can feel 10 times greater than a masculine person. So like any little vibration that a guy who has not been focused on his intuition, the normal guy will feel something that the woman has felt long time ago and is more aware of something that's long time ago that happened, that's coming, or that has happened. The feminine naturally attracts the masculine by flirting, not by force. There is a rule that some dating people use, that the first person that approaches the other person is setting the precedence as the masculine energy in the relationship. So if you are naturally a feminine woman or a feminine man, flirting attracts that masculine energy to you. The feminine expresses how she feels, allowing the masculine to respond accordingly. And we'll get into that more with the next must-have, which is communication. Traits of the masculine. The masculine needs to be respected. So respect his decisions, respect given to his judgments, respect given to who he is, and acknowledge for the things that the masculine does. Fixing things around the house, providing a home, providing the electricity in the home, providing the car. The masculine is also giving. So when the feminine activates that masculine, he automatically wants to give to the feminine, give of his time, giving of his body, giving of his possessions. The masculine is initiates that first contact, initiates dates, initiates conversations that, when understood how to talk, masculines will do that. But if uncomfortable, can get overwhelmed by the feminine's energy and emotions rising. Like I said before, like that 10 times more feeling than a man can easily short circuit a masculine from continuing to connect and communicate with that person. The masculine is leading. Elicits surrender. Like the presence of a masculine energy allows the feminine to surrender and feel safe. The masculine likes power, likes prestige, whether it's, playing football, even watching a football game today, is that helps connect the masculine to power. And it could be just power of having a job, power of, being in control of his decisions and not letting anyone else dictate to the masculine what he will do in any moment. Power also like that, not a dominating, have to conquer power, but just using the power in his body. When the masculine is using his power, he is more in his body, more connected to the world around him. The feminine is just feeling. It's just can't help but to feel. But the masculine needs to generate energy in his body to feel more connected to the world. And also prestige, you pump up a guy in any way, he'll automatically be in love with you, kind of thing. The masculine needs time to respond to questions, and that's more communication. And again, the masculine is generous with his body, his mind, his money, his possessions. Communication. Communication is the thing that creates trust, that creates that sense of knowing someone else. Like the deeper you can go in communicating, the stronger your connection will be. The more certain you will be about another person, the more secure you will feel in that relationship. And presence is the key. Being present to what's going on, like what's being communicated in our modalities in our bodies, in our energy, and in our words. They say that it's been documented that communication is based on three things. 55% of communication is body language. Only 7% is the actual words that we're using. The rest is the inflection in which we are using those words and how we are activating our body as we are speaking. Now, presence of this dynamic as you're speaking to someone else, when speaking to the masculine, if I'm masculine speaking to a feminine, I will notice if the words that I'm using are shutting her down, closing her off, making her feel not heard, not respected or listened to. How my being present and noticing the shifts in her body, the frequency of her talking, the eye contact that we're sharing. If she's shutting down, I can feel it in my body if I'm being present, and I can adapt to that situation and begin to use better choices of words and feel her open up again. And of course, the modalities of auditory, being visual, and kinesthetic are the three main ways of communication. So person can be a visual person, the person that is looking at the body language, and subconsciously as they're looking at you, they can see pupils dilate. They can see if you're breathing or not. All this communication is going on to the other person and you to them as well. Someone that loves sound are listening for certain words that will open them up. Saying something, asking a person like, do you see what I'm saying? Compared to, are you hearing what I'm saying? Strikes different accords in different people. Getting to know your partner in this way will help you understand better communication with them. Try it all. If you don't know, try it all. Try being verbal and try your words. Try using different words. Sweetheart means something different than honey. You pissed me off compared to I felt bad when are stating the same things, but in different ways to elicit that other person to open up. And feeling like when we're talking and when we see something or feel something, we feel something in our body, usually. And based on that feeling as you're talking to me, that feeling as I'm listening to you on the phone is also a part of my experience. So people can tell, like you can tell when your mate is pissed at you, even though they're not using harsh language or appearing to be hostile in his body language. But the energy that's coming off from that person is felt. So trying to BS someone like, no, I'm okay. It doesn't work when we become more aware of how we're communicating with someone else. And sometimes it's done on purpose to elicit response to someone else, to help them. I want to be loved, so I'm going to be this bratty person until you come show me love and open me back up again. Words and how we use them. Communicating with ourselves. All these things are happening in ourselves as we talk to ourselves. If we're in a situation and our body begins to tighten up, and that is our body trying to communicate with us that something is wrong. It doesn't necessarily, like in communication or in a relationship, those somethings that are wrong does not mean the relationship is over. It just means to bring awareness to something that is a hurdle that we aren't seeing right now. It may seem like a catastrophic thing, but more likely it will lead to a deeper connecting relationship, like a deeper sense of loving that other person. When we have those conversations that feel uncomfortable at first. Most of the time we're worried about being judged or being judged or made fun of or, being bitched at. and some of the masculine ways versus feminine ways, they come up differently. Most men tend to be more visual, and speak from that place, speak from their experience. Like, we all communicate from our experience. We are not always connected to the other person's experience as we are telling something. That's where the presence is key. Again, being aware when I am only thinking of myself, I'm only connecting to myself. And yet I have a belief that I want to love you. And when those things are not matching, that presence is the key to get me back on course. And communication between the masculine and feminine. The feminine expresses how she feels to anything that the masculine suggests. So going out to the movies, a great conversation could be from the masculine. Hey, honey, let's go see The Matrix. Let's go see The Matrix. The feminine could either be like, that feels good to me. Or if she doesn't want to see that, some big action flick, say, that doesn't make me feel good. Like, is there something else that we can do? And the key in that structure is everyone's owning what they want to do. The feminine energy brings up how she feels and that she doesn't feel like going to see that movie. And in a way that doesn't feel good to me. Is there something else? That removes all blame of the masculine failing at trying to please his woman. That gives him another opportunity to fix something or to come up with another plan, another solution. And the last of the must-haves is chemistry. Chemistry is that immediate chemical reaction to another person. And I'm talking strictly biological, like hormones, pheromones. You get a whiff of someone and then you instantly turn on by them. Or you're turned on by their smile. Like all that stuff that you're noticing based on your modality. Based on your modality are attribute to you being attracted to that person. Sharing common interest, like the same football team or the same passions about animal rights. Feeling that connection that you work well together. Sharing the same morals and beliefs, believing in the same religion, believing in the same political position. And of course, that lustful sexual attraction that you have instantly with someone, that all you can think about is having sex with that person or kissing that person or getting to know that person, touching that person. All chemical reactions, the releasing of those hormones, the biological responses that we aren't seeing that are happening to each other. And there's a warning. Sometimes the strong chemistry can be confused with that meant to be feeling, but there's something I can't get over you about, and I feel it so strongly, even though our relationship totally sucks. But my body, is telling me that there is something here. Sometimes that's true, and there are just some communication bases. But when that I'm being treated like shit and I still can't get enough of this person, tends to be more chemistry than actual signs of needing to be together. I hope this has served you and enlightened you in a lot of ways about yourself, and hopefully painted a picture of some of your past relationships or even the current relationship that you're in. I've put together if you're wanting to go deeper into these and a lot more dynamics of specifically how to communicate with someone, like exact words to say. My story began when I got a divorce and when I began to really study communication, like study relationships and study myself, number one, like going to all these self-help seminars and reading self-help books, getting in communities about getting in touch with ourselves. And I want to be able to share this with you. If you're ready to identify if your current relationship works or not, you will also learn how to trust yourself and your partner. Trust your judgment in your dating partner. Like, be able to actually see why you are attracted to someone and where is it chemistry and where is it me repeating the same actions over and over again. Like, there are needs that we have and that we will, and these needs will be addressed no matter what. Understand your partner in ways that they will be blown away by. Like, I feel so heard. I feel so seen, and I love you. Instantly. Like, these things can turn around in a moment. I got a great referral just yesterday from a woman that I coached on like Wednesday, and like an hour before her then breaking up boyfriend got to the house, and she implemented all these techniques and tools, and he went from, I don't want to be in a relationship with you, but I love you and I want to be with you, but I don't want to be in a relationship with you, to I feel good about our relationship after this conversation has happened. And I say that to say that shifts can happen in the blink of an eye. You can take a relationship from about to get a divorce to back on track and totally in love with someone when you understand yourself, what you really need, and when your partner's true needs. Align what your mind thinks, how your body feels, and what your actions are. Eliminate the confusion about healthy relationships. Create an internal love GPS. Instinctively know when things are off track. Be aware of subtle changes, of subtle shifts. Being able to check in and have daily intimacy with your partner. Understand why you repeat the same mistakes in love over and over again. Like, what is it that you're actually wanting in those moments? In this program, you will understand exactly why you are motivated to do these things over and over again. Like, consciously, it makes sense. Consciously, you know that you're about to sabotage this thing, but you can't help it. And at the same time, it feels good because it's feeling a need. And catch that self-sabotage before it happens. And this is my 4-week online course. And I've decided to do live webinars. And that it will definitely be better than the start of today's, where I forgot to turn the screen. And to go over... in week 1, really being honest with yourself. where are you really in relationship? Like, there are stages of relationships that everyone in the world is in right now. Be honest with yourself and be able to tell yourself exactly where you are. So when you know where you are, you know exactly where to go. If you look at the map and you see where you want to go, but you're lying to yourself and saying you're on the beach when you're in the middle of Chicago, that map is doing you no good. Getting to your core of being single, or in a relationship that does not inspire you, or a relationship that you feel good about, but know that it used to be better and that it can be better again. Understanding these things, understanding the dynamics between you and your partner, between you and yourself, and then you and your partner. The different kinds of relationships. At what level are you on? Like, what level are you playing at? Are you really loving your partner, or are you about yourself? Like, waiting to be loved. Like, there's the ground level of waiting to be loved. Like, I'm not gonna bring you flowers until you tell me you love me, or until you rub my back or whatever. Like, holding love hostage until you receive love first. Like, where are you compared to totally giving of your partner so that they never feel the lack for your love again? And the symptom, not symptom, but the what do you call it? Like, the response to that is that they in turn love you like you have never been loved before, because you have developed this culture of giving love first and making sure that your partner feels loved, and that turns you on more than the experience of lack of loving yourself first. We will go over the mask and mirrors. Like, some of the masks, and not necessarily like the masculine mask, but these are masks that when we are experiencing another person, what is that reflecting in us in that moment? Is it reflecting actually what we think about ourselves? Like, are we being treated badly? And has that been how we are treating ourselves through our self-talk and doubting ourselves? And yet the world is reflecting that back to us. And confusing desire with the reality, like confusing that this must mean something because it feels so good when we're having sex, compared to the reality of it doesn't really feel good when we have sex. I may just like the connection, and the connection is stronger than being alone. In week 2, we go over why we do what we do when we are in love. Like, what is motivating us to behave and act and respond to love than when we are single? Then we begin to learn the effects of putting love first and how to put love first in a relationship. Like, breaking through those barriers inside of ourselves that limits us from giving love, and breaks down that wall that we have up that is keeping us from giving love, is also blocking us from receiving love. So learn how to put love first and drop those walls. Understand deeply masculine and feminine energies, the keys to the passion and desire in your relationship, keeping that polarity going. And how to put to practical use what we've learned so far. And any emailed questions. Week 3 is communication, the key to all relationships. How we communicate and what does that mean? Go over the modalities, go over sentence structures, nonviolent communication, sexuality based, like masculine and feminine based communication. And how to tell if your relationship is failing. Like what are the signs? The signs that the world is coming to an end in your relationship. There are 4 signs that, if they're all there, will bring awareness to you, and there are things that you can do to change and bring it back. Changing the direction of that relationship in a healthy and passionate way. And the last week, week 4, is preparing for love and how to receive. So after accumulating all this knowledge that we have been putting to use for all these weeks, how to really prepare for the vision of love that we have never experienced before. What to be aware of. What to be aware of going forward. Like some of the downfalls of this new belief system, this new attitude, and knowing ahead of time that these things are normal will help us stay on track and not be defeated as soon as, someone may reject us or we see ourselves falling back into our old pattern. We can always change it back around. Eliminate the self-sabotaging behaviors. And with each week, there will be a group conference call to go over any questions and any further lessons and tidbits that weren't talked about in the live seminar, in the live webinar. Each week, there will be a recap, group conversation of the previous lessons. And the bonuses of the archive of each group. Starting a private Facebook community with my clients and with workshop attendants, participants, and early promotion of anything else that I'm doing. Introductory price of $297. Now, if this covers everything that we just talked about, the 4 weeks and the 4 group calls, if you want one-on-one coaching, that's another $200 when you get the one-on-one coaching. And like I said, some situations just need an outside perspective to immediately turn it all around, so that you can feel heard and understood as we're going through this intense process of looking at ourselves, of discovering what we really needed and finding compassion for ourselves. To be personally guided one-on-one with me. Register now at iteachhowtolove.com. Are there any questions right now? I'm sorry, the audio was breaking up. Can you hear me now? Are there any questions? So all the benefits of the program that starts pretty soon: aligning your mind, your body, your emotions, and spirit. Eliminating confusion about healthy relationships. Understanding why you repeat the same mistakes. Understanding your true basic love needs. Catching self-sabotage before it happens. And here's the bonus training is once I discovered this philosophy, it really shaped how I see people and how I'm able to go deeper into solving problems and to seeing people, making people feel heard and grabbing rapport than I had ever been able to do before. And understanding the dynamics between people, between myself and another person. And they are the 6 human needs, developed by Anthony Robbins, but he sculpted it from Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs and broke it down to a simpler, more digestible way of understanding. Maslow's hierarchy was about the bottom is being like basic air, water, gravity, all the way up to spiritual needs, things. The first one is certainty. Like we need certainty in our lives at some degree. To that degree is the individuality of yourself. So some people need certainty in money, certainty in that they will be loved, certainty in a job. Some want certainty that they will be able to feel the other person's love. But if we were certain about all these things all the time, we would be bored. So that's where uncertainty / variety comes in. When we are certain, when we feed our need for certainty and watch a movie that we've watched before, we're still looking for the uncertainty and variety in the details that we missed before, that we've forgotten before, that we loved before in a different way. So in relationships, it's like the difference between a person who likes variety and uncertainty goes skydiving. The person that loves certainty, that values certainty more, doesn't go skydiving, doesn't ride motorcycles. Completely boring to the person that values uncertainty higher than certainty. And then there's love and connection. We all have a need for love / connection. Like they are the same, but we term them differently depending on each person. So we all have a need for connecting to, even if we're living alone and need to connect to someone through the phone, connecting to another person as we are in the grocery store, connecting to connecting when we're at work, where we go interact with other people. That connection that we are not alone in the world in some way, either small or large, depending on how much you value that. The fourth human need is significance. We all have a need to feel significant in a way. So the first thing that people say when I say that is, well, what about, monks and all these other people? They find significance in being that way. They find significance in having no significance, having no need for significance. So it can go either that way to the person that wants to be loved and showered with attention and, it's my birthday, or I need you to acknowledge that I exist every day. I need to feel that you find me significant every day. Tell me that I'm beautiful every day. Tell me that how I make you feel good every day. Significance in some way is a need that we all have. And we all have that need for growth. Like I said in the beginning, if you're not growing, you're dying. So as long as we're growing, we're above ground. And that growth can come in reading books, finding something new out every day. It could be physically growing, like when we were younger. It could be expanding our thought process of what we think, expanding how we see things, finding more details, going deeper inside of ourselves. Growth, we're either growing or we're dying. And the last need is for contribution. Contribution can either be in charity or contributing to the family, the mother contributing to family of raising the kids or taking care of the house. The contribution of going to work and contributing to your family by bringing home the paychecks. But we all need to find some way to contribute in some way. Like no one lives a life and doesn't contribute to another. Like whether even contributing to a conversation, contributing to the financial system, contributing to good health, contributing to bad health. It all goes. Now here is where it gets a little bit deeper about these human needs. When you place these in order of most important to least important, the top two is how you see the world. So if I value certainty and significance as my number two, that filter of certainty and significance means that I won't see love as if love is most important to me. I would have to be certain that I'm significant to you in order for me to feel love. Compared to a person that has love first and then uncertainty, then significance. So if I value love and connection overall, I'm going to do whatever it takes to feel love with you. And I am going to do it in a variety of ways. And then I will feel significant. Then I will allow myself to feel significant. Like there are rules that we carry to allow ourselves to feel these things. And the order of importance of these 6 needs can either dictate a healthy relationship with yourself and other people, or a relationship that needs a lot of work. And just because this is where you are right now, the order of your needs right now, we can make conscious shifts to change how we see our world, like getting into our subconscious, that changes our belief system, that makes us act differently. Was that clear for everyone? Oh man, sorry. My screen stops showing from time to time now. For more information, go to iteachhowtolove.com. Sign up for my news list as well, like my newsletter. And we'll be putting out weekly videos soon and giving as much information to people as possible and helping. It is my job to teach you how to love.